Across our world we live, in cities and villages, all part of a greater whole, but we're not alone. They come in herds, hives, and swarms, packs, prides, and pairs, living in nature, members of societies. The ocean, covering 70% of our world, it is also the largest ecosystem on Earth, with thousands of species of fish, reptiles, invertebrates, and seabirds depending on it, as well as dozens of marine mammals, large and small, from whales and dolphins, seals and walruses, manatees and dugongs, as well as polar bears and otters. There are 129 species in all, either fully aquatic and semi-aquatic, divided into 4 groups of cetaceans, sirenians, pinnipeds, and fiscipeds. They all live off the ocean, feeding on anything between fish and crustaceans, plankton and krill, to other marine mammals. They vary in size from the biggest, the blue whale, to the smallest, the rare South American marine otter. They come as loners and pairs, as well as huge colonies and small schools. Though outnumbered by the other animals in the sea, they have the largest biomass of any group of organisms in the ocean, one of the most common groups being seals. There are 33 species of seals, including the sea lions, all being semi-aquatic pinnipeds, distinguished by their thick skin, streamlined bodies, and 4 flippers, related to walruses, bears, weasels, and raccoons. While not as fast as dolphins in the water, they are highly flexible fish hunters, spending the majority of their lives in the water, coming ashore for mating season, molting on their fur, and occasionally to sleep. Divided into 2 main groups, the first including fur seals and sea lions, the second being true seals. Fur seals and sea lions having external ears as well as longer muscular flippers, allowing them to walk on land, while true seals are considerably more streamlined, lacking outer ears, and are unable to use their flippers for locomotion on land. Fur seals and sea lions are largely found in subpolar, temperate, or tropical regions. True seals can be found throughout the polar regions as well, where the thick layer of blubber insulates them from the cold waters. Seals and sea lions range in size from the smallest, the Galapagos fur seals at 4 feet long, to the largest, the southern elephant seal, being up to 22 feet long. Many are known to migrate vast distances, up to tens of thousands of miles for elephant seals, using geomagnetic fields and water and air currents to navigate, frequently migrating between alternating molting and breeding sites. While most spend their lives in the water as solitary hunters of fish or in small groups when food is abundant, a few additionally being specialized hunters of crustaceans, squid, invertebrates, and penguins. During mating seasons and birth-giving, all seals and sea lions return to shore in huge numbers, ranging from a dozen or so to thousands of individuals, gathered together in large colonies known as rookeries, frequently on islands with less terrestrial predators around. To communicate, seals and sea lions employ varying vocalizations, from simple grunting on land and whistles, clicks, and chirps underwater, used occasionally to coordinate movements underwater during a hunt, as when attacking a school of fish, to loud barking, fur seals and sea lions able to bark loudly, used both during mating seasons to greet other individuals, for intimidation and rivalry, or parent-pup relationships. Many larger seals also able to produce low-frequency sounds to maintain social hierarchies. Those seal societies are typically simple in construct and only come into force during mating season once a year, to follow seasonal variations and availability of food. Most seals are pelagynous, with many females mating with a single male. Male elephant seals able to mate with as many as 50 females during one season, while a few, such as the harp seal and the hooded seal, are serially monogamous, having only one mate per season. The males arrive at a rookery first to establish a territory, to later be populated by several females who become part of the male harem, often fasting to retain it, instead of relying on the thick layer of fat or blubber for sustenance. Larger males who are able to fast longer typically being more successful in mating as a result. their size also proving advantageous when competing with other males for territory, as fights often occur between male seals, using their weight and canines to clash into each other, along with various ritualized threat displays of barking, lunging, head shaking, and stares. Because of this, males are often considerably larger than the females, male elephant seals being up to 6 times as large as their female counterparts. Mating is brief and fleeting, the mates often lying next to each other to allow their genitalia to meet, with all species able to use a process of delayed implantation, wherein the embryo can remain in suspended development for weeks or months before it's implanted into the uterus, so that implantation only occurs once the female returns to the sea after mating season, or to enable the female to gain more weight before giving birth. Seal and sea lion gestational periods can take anywhere between 8 to 12 months to allow for large, well-developed offsprings. Usually, a single pup is born, remaining on the beach until large enough to swim and hunt on their own, with only a few exceptions such as the bearded seal pups able to swim within hours after birth, only after nursing building up enough body mass and fat to swim effectively. Male seals play typically a little role in raising their young, only some species of male sea lions attempting to protect their pups from predators. Mother seals, on the other hand, have different strategies depending on the species. True seals often fasting during the entirety of the relatively short lactation period, which can be as short as 4 days for some species, but up to 5 weeks for others. While fur seals and sea lions practice periodic nursing, the mother fasting, nursing for a few days before leaving their young on shore to forage for food, during which time the pup fasts until the mother returns to nurse them again. In ongoing intervals, it can last between a single day to 2 weeks, depending on availability of food. Fur seal pups keep nursing for a period of between 6 months to 3 years. The milk of seals typically contains large amount of fat, up to 50 to 60% compared to human milk at 4% or cow milk at 3.5%, enabling the pup to quickly gain weight, elephant seal pups gaining as much as 9 pounds a day until weaning. Alloparenting commonly occurring, particularly among the true seals, with pups often attempting to steal milk from other lactating females, with mixed success. After weaning, the female often stays around the pup for a few additional weeks for protection, then abandons it. Left alone, weaned pups are often either able to swim already, or gather around in pup groups on shore for added protection until they are able to hunt for themselves. Seals reach maturity at anywhere between 2 to 12 years of age, though for younger seals mating is seldom successful due to their size and low survival rates. Many juvenile seals being targets for predators such as polar bears, sharks, and orcas. Lifespans average around 25 to 35 years, females usually living longer than males, as males often engage in combat, or die before reaching maturity. Among the most recognizable marine mammals around today are the dolphins, a diverse and widely distributed group of fully aquatic cetaceans. They are divided into 4 families with a total of 40 species, generally found in tropical and subtropical areas. They range in size between Maui's dolphin at 5.6 feet long to the killer whale, or orca, at 31 feet. All feature highly streamlined bodies. While not as agile as seals, they are considerably faster, reaching top speeds of 35 miles per hour, as they are fast-moving predators of primarily fish, though orcas also attack other marine mammals, including seals. Highly intelligent, dolphins often collaborate to take down larger prey or schools of fish, with complex hunting behaviors including driving the fish to shallower waters and beaches to feed on them. Dolphins are highly social animals living in loosely structured schools known as pods, which can contain over a dozen individuals. Though in locations where food is abundant, several pods may merge to form temporary superpods, which have been known to contain over 1,000 individuals. The pod structure is highly interchangeable, with individuals frequently switching between different pods, often increasing in numbers during foraging to enable better pack hunting, decreasing during resting and traveling. Some species switching between smaller, more permanent traveling groups, forming subgroups for mating, nursing, and hunting, though this doesn't preclude them from forming strong bands, as dolphins have been known to stay with and assist other dolphins who have been injured or fallen ill. behavior that has on occasion crossed species boundaries, with dolphins assisting or even protecting dolphins of other species. While orcas are unique in that they form permanent matriarchal societies, wherein a smaller group of 4 to 6 individuals spanning 3 to 4 generations stay in a matrilineal group, each individual following their mother their entire life. Groups that also converge to form larger pods of 2 to 4 matrilines, with pods additionally forming larger clans. As such, dolphins have developed a variety of complex vocalizations and non-verbal communications, such as touch patterns and posturing. Vocalizations originating from nasal air sacs located just below the blowhole, frequently divided into 3 categories: clicks, burst pulse sounds, and modulated whistles. Clicks often occurring in short series known as click trains, used for echolocation even at great distances. Burst pulse sounds are the variety of squeals dolphins frequently use to call attention to a predator or prey, or as a sign of distress or playfulness, depending on the tone. Some dolphin pods forming dialects of distinct repeated calls that are unique to that group, while whistles are largely individual and are used as identifiers or signatures, though they may address other individuals by mimicking the signature whistle of the other dolphin. Males are generally larger than the females to a varying degree, aiding the male during reproduction, as dolphins are generally polyandrous, with one female mating with several males, leading to males frequently competing with each other, usually in the form of both ritualized displays of dominance, as well as physical combat. Male dolphins often viciously biting and ramming their opponents, sometimes to the point where their opponent is exiled from the pod. Older males frequently covered in scars as a result. A synchronized breeding season typically occurs once a year, though mating itself can occur at any time, and is preceded by various displays of courtship, ranging from posturing and calls to herding of females by aggressive males, or high-speed chases, where the male chases the female down, females often preferring males with great speed and agility, avoiding males with lacking social skill. Males sometimes also form alliances to herd or chase groups of females, dividing them among themselves, as with the bottlenose dolphins forming pairs to follow the female, restricting her movement until she becomes receptive. Many dolphin males using physical aggression to keep the female nearby. The mating act itself is typically brief and fleeting, occurring belly to belly as the dolphin align their genitalia, often seen swimming in a complex dance as they mate. The gestational period of dolphins varies greatly from 10 to 12 months for most smaller dolphins, up to 18 months for orcas, with interbirth intervals typically ranging between 1 to 5 years, most giving birth to a single young or calf, between 2 to 4 feet long, who is then breastfed for anywhere between 6 months to 8 years. As dolphins lack lips, and thus also the ability to suckle, the mother excretes the milk into the water for the calf to consume. Quickly gaining weight, doubling in size during the first 6 months, the calf also stays with the mother long after weaning for protection. During the first year, the mortality rate for calves is extremely high, largely due to predation, as they are often slower than their full-grown counterparts and too weak to be able to defend themselves. Due to their vulnerability, both males and females often participate in protecting and caring for their young, though some males, such as those with the bottlenose dolphins, have been known to practice infanticide, killing the offsprings of other males to prioritize their own bloodline. While female dolphins often gather in nursing groups in shallower water to better protect the calves as well as teach them how to hunt smaller fish closer to shore. The maturity of most dolphins is primarily tied to the size of the dolphin rather than the physical age, most dolphins maturing at 80% of their adult size. As such, maturity can come anywhere between 2 to 15 years, even varying greatly within a single species, depending on the availability of food, with the average lifespan for most dolphins being 20 to 40 years, up to 90 for orcas. Dolphins are also among few species that frequently engage in sexual activity outside of mating purposes, even before maturing, as greetings to strengthen social bonds and relieve tension and resolve conflicts. Dolphins have also been shown to use rudimentary tools and displays of learned culture within individual communities, including the use of sponges to protect the dolphin's snout while foraging, as well as using sticks and weeds as part of their courtship displays. Highly intelligent, dolphins have been shown to easily mimic the behavior of other animals as well as humans, as well as being able to play complex games and recognize sequential numbers and being self-aware. The by far largest marine mammals are the whales, ranging from the smallest dwarf sperm whale at 8.5 feet and 300 pounds, to the blue whale at up to 112 feet, weighing 190 tons, the largest of any animal in history. Found throughout every ocean, with many species ranging well into Arctic or Antarctic waters, they are distinct from dolphins and porpoises, with 40 species divided into 8 families, split between 2 orders, baleen whales and toothed whales, differing significantly in lifestyle. While toothed whales are active hunters of a wide array of other marine animals, baleen whales feed exclusively on smaller marine animals such as krill or plankton by filtering them out through large baleen plates, forming a sea-like structure. Both are unable to chew their food and instead rely entirely on what they can swallow whole, baleen whales typically being larger than toothed whales, with the exception of the sperm whale, the largest toothed whale. While females of both orders are commonly larger, whales are, due to their size and hunting method, largely solitary, only rarely coming into transient groups or pods consisting of between 2 to 10 individuals, either for migration, as many whales are migratory, traveling up to 16,000 miles a year, or for cooperative hunting when large amounts of prey are available, or in pairs during mating season. Despite their generally solitary nature, most whales are highly vocal, using underwater sounds to communicate while traveling, feeding, and socializing, as well as using click sounds for sonar purposes. Many larger whales, such as humpback whales, are also widely known for their song, generated by forcing air through their massive nasal cavities. Songs which typically last between 10 to 20 minutes and can repeat for hours. Carried by the water for hundreds of miles, many calls being infrasonic, barely audible to human ears, though at volumes greater than any other animal sound. The blue whale song being near the loudest possible sound on Earth, able to be heard across the entire ocean. Though most are of unknown purpose, speculated to relate either to establishing dominance, mating practices, or migration, with males being the only ones observed to sing. Mating season usually coincides with winter migration, when whales move to warmer waters to mate and give birth, usually near the equator. Most whales are polyandrous, with one female mating with a few males per season, though serial monogamy has also been known to occur. The males court the females in pairs, the male following the female around until she is willing, or in larger groups of several males around a single female, known as competitive groups, gathering near the surface, frequently making use of courtship displays such as spy hopping, pectoral slapping, or lobe-tailing, as well as stroking and caressing the females with their flippers and rubbing against her, or, as with the blue whales, rolling around each other, alternating deep dives before mating. Competitive groups also feature occasional infighting among the males, ranging from fin and tail slapping, charging, and parrying. Though serious injuries are uncommon and consist mainly of a show of force and dominance rather than actual combat. Similar to that of dolphins and porpoises, wherein the male and female align their genitalia while ascending to the surface, after which the male leaves the mating area, the female remaining to mate again with other males to ensure conception. Gestational periods for whales are typically long, between 10 to 17 months, with interbirth intervals of 1 to 5 years, after which the whales give birth to a single young or calf. Unlike most other mammals, whale calves are born tail first to ensure that they do not risk drowning during birth. The calf when born is generally a quarter of the size of the mother, which can be up to 23 feet as with the blue whale calf, or as small as just over 3 feet for the dwarf sperm whale. During the first 12 months, the calf is entirely dependent on its mother's milk, excreted directly into the calf's mouth from the mother's mammary glands, which remain inverted inside the mother's body until stimulated by the calf's touch. The milk is high in fat, with the consistency of a creamy paste so it doesn't dissolve in the water, all to ensure the calf quickly gains weight, consuming as much as 10% of its own body weight in milk every day. Some species, such as the blue whale, gains over 100 pounds per day. This weight gain is crucial not only for physical growth, but also to build up and maintain a thick layer of blubber, which keeps the calf warm in colder climates as it follows its mother to her usual feeding area, either far north or far south of the calf's birthplace. Many whales existing specifically around the polar regions, such as the beluga whale, which has adapted fully to an Arctic climate. Most whales continue to depend on their mother well past weaning until 2 years of age, following the mother and learning hunting methods as well as social behavior, after which they will have grown to at least 2/3 of their full size, closing the gap upon reaching maturity. Male whales mature between 7 and 10 years of age, while females mature at 5 to 7 years of age, consuming enormous quantities of food, with blue whales consuming as much as 40 million krill per day. Due to their immense size, most whales are impervious to predation, with the exception of smaller whale species such as the beluga targeted by polar bears, and some adolescent whales separated from their mothers, sometimes targeted by orcas. The average lifespan of whales being between 50 to 70 years, with some whales such as the bowhead whale believed to be able to exceed 200 years of age. After death, whale carcasses typically sink to the ocean floor and do what is known as a whale fall, their bones forming significant marine microhabitats used by corals, fish, and sea snakes and other marine animals, many of which feed on phytoplankton. As with many whales, phytoplankton itself spurred into growth by whale excrement, every part of its life cycle contributing to the ecosystem at large. Though their behavior, social structure, and lifestyle may differ greatly, whales, dolphins, and seals, along with walruses, manatees, dugongs, otters, and polar bears, are all marine mammals, large and small. Whether they're in huge rookeries, small pods, in pairs, or alone, they're all part of the same ecosystem, living in the same ocean, breathing the same air, all part of the animal society. On the Great Plains of Africa, some of the mightiest animals on Earth share space with the smallest, in one of the greatest areas of nature untouched by man. All manners of wilderness come together in great numbers, or all alone. Through the periodic wet and dry seasons, the corresponding weather greatly dictating the behavior of the entire ecosystem, as food becomes either abundant or scarce, respectively, particularly affecting the many species of great herbivores, most being herd animals, though of varying sizes, social structures, pair bonds, parental relationships, and outcasts. They are the heart of the African wilderness, none the least that of the wildebeest. A genus of antelopes, itself a group of bovine. Wildebeest are distinct from other antelopes by sight and behavior alike, divided into two species, the black wildebeest and the blue wildebeest. Standing at 4.5 feet tall, 8 feet long, and up to 600 pounds. They can be found throughout Namibia, Angola, South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Kenya. In open plains, shrublands, and woodlands, mountainous or flat. They are among the most ubiquitous herbivores in the continent, active both day and night, feeding most exclusively on grass, though when grass is in short supply, they have been known to feed on shrubs and trees as well, occasionally coming in great herds of thousands of individuals. though the average size of a herd outside of migration is typically limited to 20 to 30 individuals, centered around the loose structure of females and their calves, along with few territorial bulls. The herd being limited to 2 or 3 ranges corresponding to the wet and dry season, occasionally having an intermediate range as well. The wet season range being the smallest, often at 200 acres or less, while the average dry season range is near 400 acres. The blue wildebeest performing an annual migration to new grazing grounds around May or June, gathering in huge numbers up to 1.5 million individuals, along with hundreds of thousands of other animals such as zebras and gazelles who follow the wildebeest to the new grazing ground, covering distances of up to 1,000 miles, making it one of the greatest natural animal phenomenon in the world. As such immense herding takes place, wildebeest are required to be highly social and communicative, using body language and vocalizations and olfactory communications, a male's bellow being loud enough to be heard over 1.5 miles away, while urination and defecation as well as preorbital glands near the eyes and pedal glands on the feet aid in olfactory communications. Wildebeest often rubbing their heads and faces on each other's backsides for social contact, mother-child recognition, and conflict management. While both male and female grow horns, there are subtle differences between them, including the size and angle. Mating season, known as rut, lasts 3 weeks a year, and usually coincides with the end of the rainy season when the wildebeest can feed on the lush green grass, as well as minimize risk of predation due to decreased predator abundance. Females usually maturing at 16 months of age, while males can take up to 2 years. Though the males become aggressively territorial and mostly succeed in mating only at 4 years of age, they do not normally form permanent pair bonds, shown to engage multiple mates in a single season. During each rut, the older males establish small territories by calling and herding, usually around less than an acre in size, as well as infighting between males known as sparring. They do not eat or sleep as long as mature females are in the vicinity, instead focusing their entire attention on the females by serenading them with hums, croaks, and bellows, and herding large groups of females together into their territory. Once a male has gained access to a mate, the female remains close by, mating dozens of times to ensure conception. After which, bachelors, pregnant females, females who recently gave birth, and older calves are all segregated into separate groups. The gestational period of wildebeest is typically 8 months, with a newborn calf weighing approximately 45 pounds. The period immediately after birth being the most crucial as the calf is imprinted by the female, the mother staying close to her offspring to ensure that the offspring would recognize her by scent alone and vice versa, after which the calf learns first to stand, then to walk within 6 to 8 minutes after birth. Up to 500,000 calves are then born between February and March during the start of the rainy season, able to keep up with the pace of the herd within days. The young calf stays close to his mother for the first few months, protecting it from predators, with males often remaining at the outer rim of the herd to help protect the more vulnerable calves as well. The calf gains independence at 8 months of age and is commonly considered fully grown at 16 months. The average life expectancy of the wildebeest is typically around 20 years old. It is during their first year that wildebeest are the most vulnerable to predation, often targeted by lions, cheetahs, hyenas, and African wild dogs. Despite common perception, wildebeest overall are most vulnerable when in larger herds than small, as individuals tend to be less vigilant in great numbers, though the individual risk of predation is much smaller. Once a predator is spotted, the herd gathers closely while braying and bellowing loud, shrill alarm calls to alert others as to the location of the predator, as well as stomping their feet to intimidate it, with males and females who recently gave birth being aggressive pursuers of predators, chasing them off. Wildebeest respond similarly to alarm calls made by other animals such as gazelles and baboons, with smaller animals aside from predators often trailing the wildebeest herd for scavenging and protection. Wildebeest often specifically group together with smaller groups of zebras whenever faced with an open savanna environment to reduce risk of individual predation. But though they remain segregated, the wildebeest and the zebras effectively form a cross-species herd, or larger cohesive group. While the wildebeest still retain their inner herd mentality, our so-called swarm intelligence, wherein, despite having the appearance of a large group of individuals chaotically moving alongside each other, the herd actually systematically explore, analyze, and overcome obstacles as a single entity. An instinct that sometimes even overcomes individual survival, with weaker individuals often separating themselves, falling victims to predators such as crocodiles, or drowning when crossing rivers, so that the herd can move on otherwise intact. Prioritizing the herd as a social unit within the animal society. Among the most archetypal animals of the plains of Africa is the African elephant. The largest animal walking on land today, the African elephant measures up to 13 feet high, weighing 15,000 pounds. The only surviving family of the order of Proboscidea. They are more closely related to manatees and dugongs than any mammal on land, yet they share the same habitat and much of the same food sources as many ungulates or hoofed animals. The African elephant is divided into two subspecies, the bush elephant and the forest elephant, the bush elephant being the larger and more common of the two. They are exclusively herbivores and frugivores, feeding on grass, leaves, fruits, bark, roots, and shrubbery, known to have an immense impact on the environment wherever they pass, each full-grown elephant feeding for between 16 and 20 hours a day, consuming as much as 330 pounds of food and 11 gallons of water, decimating plant life, flattening entire forest or woodland areas, moving 6 to 12 miles per day to accommodate their need for sustenance. Even as far as over 100 miles when food sources are scarce. Elephants come in large to medium-sized herds of varying numbers. They form complex fission fusion-based matriarchal societies, centered around an older, dominant female or cow and her offspring and occasionally younger sisters. The matriarch remaining the leader of the family until death, after which she is succeeded by her eldest daughter, even if her sister is present. The family units of elephants also associate with other families to form bond groups, though they are not restricted to following each other's movements. Several families or bond groups may also group together over long migrations, forming larger clans, usually consisting of 8 to 9 bond groups or between 16 to 20 families. Though the bonds within the clan aren't typically very strong, they do become territorial and defend their range when food is scarce. Males or bulls have a very different social life, typically leading an increasingly independent life as they grow up, only to be forced out by the females after reaching maturity. The bulls then lead a mostly solitary life, only occasionally grouping together with other males in bull groups of around 10 to 20 individuals. The bull group, as well as solitary male-male encounters, are defined by a distinct dominance hierarchy, depending on health, age, size, and sexual condition. Older bulls dominating younger ones and dispersing any attempts at forming groups to challenge them, though male elephants may use threat displays and engage in sparring, playful or otherwise. Legitimate fights are rare and limited mainly to mature males over territorial displays or as part of mate guarding behavior. The only time the males and females interact are during mating season, which happens only when a cow has reached her fertile period, as well as when the male has entered a state of heightened testosterone, known as must. While cows can be fertile multiple times, males only enter must once a year, typically during the dry season for younger males and wet season for the older ones. Must is characterized by testosterone levels increasing by up to 60 times that of normal levels, accompanied by an acute swelling of the temporal glands, followed by a constant state of highly aggressive behavior and excretion of a fluid known as temporin from the sides of their heads. Behavior which can lead the elephant to charge any animal without provocation. During this time, the bull will try to track and follow a potential mate and assess her condition by a collection of pheromones excreted from her urine. The bull then engages in mate guarding behavior, following the female or multiple females to fend off other suitors. Once secured, the male will lay his trunk on the female's back to signal his desire to mount her, Most mating is successfully accomplished by older males during the wet season. An elephant pregnancy lasts 2 years, with interbirth intervals of 4 to 5 years. The extended pregnancy allowing the fetus to be born highly developed and able to quickly walk and use its trunk to collect food. A single calf is born 33 inches tall and weighing at around 260 pounds, while for the first few days the mother takes care to shield the calf from the rest of the herd. Once the calf is strong enough to keep up with the migration, it is greeted by all members of the herd by touching and caressing it as a sign of affection. The calf is then occasionally subjected to alloparenting or shared parenting by several females in the herd, usually the aunt or older sibling. While calves are largely dependent on nursing for the first 6 months, they can go on past 2 years before weaning entirely, around which time the calf starts to engage in more outwardly social bonding behavior, such as chasing other calves as with the females, or play fighting as with males. The female maturing at age 9, while the males take longer until age 14 or 15, though formal adulthood is only reached at age 18 for both sexes. The average life expectancy of elephants being 60 to 70 years, as elephants past adulthood are largely impervious to predation due to their immense size. Only larger predators and pack hunters such as lions, hyenas, and African wild dogs targeting calves. As highly social animals, elephants have various forms of communication, using their trunks to greet other elephants by stroking or wrapping them together. Trunk slaps or shoves to discipline calves and younger elephants, and to collect chemical information about each other by touching each other's mouths, temporal glands, and genitalia, deriving information about the individual's health, age, and status. Elephants also use a variety of calls, mostly produced through the larynx, but also occasionally modified through the trunk, including trumpeting used to express excitement, distress, or aggression, roars, squeals during fighting, and bellows when wounded. Elephants have also been shown to communicate through seismics. By impacting the ground with their feet, the vibrations are carried for miles. Elephants on the receiving end able to channel their vibrations through their front legs onto the ear canal. Highly intelligent, elephants have been shown to express self-awareness and cognition with extreme long-term memory, especially of migratory patterns and locations of family members over a period of years, even decades. Further speculated to be capable of expressing emotion and concern about the welfare of their family members and those of their bond groups. Among the most recognizable African animals, the giraffe stands tall. Widely known for their distinctive and unique appearance, their only remaining living relative being the okapi of the Congo. Giraffes are instantly recognized for their enormous necks and long legs, making each of the 9 subspecies the tallest mammal in the world. The legs themselves taller than the average human. Spread out over nearly all of sub-Saharan Africa, giraffes are also among the most ubiquitous herbivores of Africa, found throughout savannas, grasslands, and open woodlands. Their long necks specifically developed to reach the primary food source of acacia leaves, though they can also survive on grass, fruits, and shrubs. Most full-grown male giraffes, or bulls, standing at between 16 to 20 feet tall, weighing over 2,600 pounds, with females or cows being slightly smaller. Their large size and highly specialized diet leading giraffes to feed 16 to 20 hours a day, spending nearly the entire time standing up. Giraffes manage it by a process of rumination, or chewing, swallowing, regurgitating, and then chewing it again to maximize their nutritional intake, thus requiring less food than other animals of equivalent size as their food becomes more concentrated, only eating on average 75 pounds of foliage each day. The giraffes can be found as being either solitary or in smaller groups of very open composition with few strong social bonds, another form of fission-fusion society, usually with half a dozen individuals moving in the same general direction in proximity to each other, the largest groups coming together during dry season when the food is scarce. The most stable groupings being those of a mother and her young, as well as a cohesive group between siblings and calves of similar age, with mixed-sex groups known to frequently occur as a part of a broader social structure, Subadult bulls are the most outwardly social, engaging other bulls in play fighting and forming all-male groups, while older males often become increasingly solitary and nomadic. Giraffes are seldom territorial, but have clearly defined home ranges where they are centered around and return to, greatly affecting the area through their feeding, often stripping trees down to the bark and giving so-called wastelands to taller trees, changing the very landscape through their feeding, particularly when moving in larger groups, as their impact is spread out over larger areas and are not confined to the migration pattern of a herd. Giraffe reproduction is generally polygamous, with a few older bulls mating with many fertile females. With no clearly defined mating season, it can instead occur at any time following maturation at age 3 to 4 years for cows and 4 to 5 years for bulls, though bulls are often restricted in their maturation by the competition of any older, mature male already in the area, delaying their development until they leave the area or the younger bulls challenges the older ones with victorious results. As bulls are continuously engaged in a strict dominance hierarchy within their overlapping territories, using their necks for combat in a behavior known as necking, slamming together, rubbing and leaning on each other, even using their ossicones or small horns on the top of their heads as weapons. Though most matches don't lead to any serious injuries, there have been reports of broken necks and jaws and even death. Afterwards, the losing bull engages in a submissive mutual courting behavior to re-establish their social relationship, highly similar to male-female courting. Though bulls only engage in the courtship of females following a sampling of the cow's urine to assess her fertility through the presence of pheromones. Once an estrus female is found, the bull begins courtship. The bulls emit loud coughing sounds to signal their intent, then engage in extensive mate guarding behavior, challenging other males in the area to duels as well, though a single bull may be guarding several cows over a larger area. Mating itself is typically brief and repeated. Afterwards, a gestation period at around 15 months commences, during which the cow returns to the place of her birth, a cross-generational calving ground. The cow gives birth while standing up, leading to the calf to fall up to 6 feet to the ground, though the extended gestational period also lends its highly developed leg muscles, allowing it to stand within an hour of being born. They are then nursed and cared for exclusively by the mother for the first 9 months of its life, though weaning starts already at 4 months with the introduction of solid foods. New mothers often gather in smaller nursery herds, seeking safety in numbers, occasionally featuring what is known as shared calving pool, wherein calves are periodically left in the care of the herd, while the mother forages or drinks elsewhere temporarily, the other cows in the herd looking after the calf. Though if a threat is detected, the other cows will only alert their own young. The other cows and calves often left to either take notice or follow, or face the threat alone. While cows share a strong bond of varying degree with their calf until the next calving, bulls play no active role in raising the young. Though unlike most other African herbivores, the males do exhibit friendly interaction with the calves when they come in direct contact. Male calves leave their mothers at 15 months of age, either becoming solitary or joining all male groups, while females often become solitary at 18 months of age, though remaining in the family territory until they themselves are impregnated. Though more than half of our calves don't survive their first year due to predation, adult giraffes generally being protected by their size from most predators except for lions, the average lifespan being 25 years. Calves are instead targeted by hyenas, African wild dogs and leopards alike. Though giraffes are typically silent, they have also been known to exhibit a few calls, ranging from infrasound being carried on for miles, inaudible to the human ear, to bellows between a mother and a calf, as well as mooing and mewing sounds of the calves themselves, and hissing and moaning calls of adults to call attention to a threat or to intimidate each other. While their hearts may be the biggest of any mammal on land at over 25 pounds, and they may be largely docile, giraffes have shown little concern for other giraffes, or indeed other animals at large. occasionally known to deviate from their herbivorous diet to ingest carrion even from other fallen giraffes when opportunity arises. From herds and clans, to families and loners, and mother and child, the herbivores of Africa come in all configurations, each employing different means of communication and interaction, each having different social rules and norms to abide by. They all have one thing in common. They go through the seasons together, as a part of a larger group, living in nature as a society. Across the blue skies, or in the dark waters, in forests and swamps, or in deserts and amid arid rocks, birds have colonized every inch of our planet, from the hottest tropical jungle to the barren Antarctica. With 10,000 species, few animal groups are as prolific or as varied, coming in all shapes and sizes, from the largest, the ostrich, weighing over 300 pounds, to the smallest, the bee hummingbird of Cuba, weighing just over 1/20th of an ounce. Each have adapted to their environment and lifestyle, soaring and gliding, to diving and hovering, with many even lacking the ability to fly, such as the penguin. Existing almost exclusively in the southern hemisphere, penguins live mainly in temperate subpolar or polar climates. Few birds have become so uniquely adapted to their environment, and so far removed from other birds in appearance. Standing upright with stout bodies, an unmistakable black and white color pattern, and their small vestigial wings have evolved to dense flippers. There are fish eaters and fast swimmers, spending most of their lives in the water. Most feeding on krill, fish, squid, and crustaceans. They are also among the few animals that have not only survived the harsh cold of Antarctica, but thrived in a hostile environment devoid of predators and competition. Penguins are made up of 19 living species over 6 different genus, including the great penguins, the brush-tailed penguins, little penguins, banded penguins, yellow-eyed penguins, and crested penguins. They range in size from the emperor penguin standing at over 3 feet tall, weighing nearly 80 pounds, to the little blue penguin at mere 16 inches, at just over 2 pounds. Larger species generally found further south in polar or subpolar climates, while smaller penguins have generally adapted to temperate or even tropical climates. Their thick, smooth plumage trapping air not only to keep the penguin warm, but to preserve buoyancy underwater. Most penguins hunting in small groups of anywhere between 3 or 4 to a dozen individuals, using collaborative hunting to attack schools of fish or krill from multiple directions. While during mating and breeding season, penguins gather in huge colonies on land, known as rookeries, farther inland than their hunting grounds. From 100 or so for the gentle penguins, to hundreds of thousands, as with king, macaroni, and chinstrap penguins. The only exception being the yellow-eyed and fjordan species, who breed in individual pairs. As a result, penguins have developed a wide array of calls and non-verbal communications. Different vocalizations and postures, as well as flapping their wings, having different meanings. Used either as a welcome greetings and acknowledgements, or antagonistic displays to ward off unwanted individuals, or to avoid conflict. The penguin calls themselves are divided into 3 categories. The loudest, the contact call, being used to identify and greet colony members, which can be heard nearly a mile away with larger species. The most complex display call, used to convey territorial, sexual, and individual recognition information, unique to each individual penguin, allowing mates and parents and chicks to recognize each other by sound. The last being the threat call, the simplest of them all, used to defend the penguin's territory, or to call attention to a nearby predator. Mating season takes place every 12 to 16 months, usually coinciding with the oncoming summer, when the penguin rookeries return to the same area year after year to mate, lay eggs, and care for their young. The emperor penguin being the exception, breeding only during the Antarctic winter, though the location of their rookeries also remain the same. All penguins are generally monogamous, only rarely changing partners, and then only if their mate from the previous mating season fails to return. Males arrive first, establishing a nest area and often fasting to focus their entire attention to the preparation of the nest site, which can vary considerably between species, from deep in forested areas to rocky shores and ice shelves. Though most nests are generally constructed in the same way using stones or twigs, the males gathering each piece one by one after several hours, sometimes days, as the stability of the nest is crucial in the courtship of the female. All penguins have an elaborate courtship routine, starting with the ecstatic display or trumpeting, where the male calls out with loud braying noises to indicate that his nest has been established, thus also warning the other males to stay away as a territorial display. When the females arrive, they then engage in the mutual ecstatic behavior, wherein the female reciprocates the ecstatic display as a show of interest, establishing or re-establishing a bond. The mutual ecstatic behavior is consistently repeated throughout egg incubation and the caring of their young. The last stage is bowing, where the penguin lowers its head towards its mate, followed by a low growl or hiss, used to strengthen recognition between partners as well as resolve any conflict. The mate then reciprocates to initiate mating. The mating act is brief and repeated over the course of a day. The female then lays 1 or 2 eggs to be incubated in the nest. With only the emperor and king penguins always keeping a single egg on top of the feet under a loose fold or brood patch on the lower abdomen to keep warm for incubation. Both partners typically alternate in incubating the eggs, the other searching for food to bring back to their mate. After hatching, the chicks are similarly cared for by both parents, one always staying with the chick while the other brings back food to regurgitate into the mouth of the chick and its mate. The chicks are born either naked or with a thin brown, grey or white plumage, prohibiting the chick from swimming as it lacks the insulating effect of the finer plumage, molting only after the chick reaches adolescence, between 2 months to over a year old, depending on the species. Mortality rates being between 40 to 90% for most chicks during the first year, often targeted by orcas, seals, sea lions, and sharks, with all penguins taking an additional 2 to 7 years to reach maturity, as most penguins are comparatively long-lived, lifespans often reaching 15 to 20 years old. Soaring high above the stormy seas, we find the albatross, one of the most recognizable seabirds in the world. They are the mighty gliders, traveling for over 600 miles on a single flap of their wings, able to lock their wing in place to keep it fully extended without strain. Albatrosses are also among the largest birds in existence, the largest, the wandering albatross, having a wingspan of up to 12 feet, though their bodies are considerably smaller than other birds of equivalent wingspans. The smallest, the sooty albatross, weighing as little as 5 to 6 pounds. They are divided into 22 species, over 4 genera: the great albatrosses, the mollymogs, the North Pacific albatrosses, and the sooty albatrosses, closely related to petrels as part of the same order of so-called tubeperzers. They are found throughout temperate and subpolar areas of the Pacific, South Atlantic, and Indian Ocean, depending on the stronger northern and southern winds for soaring, and with the waved albatross being found in the tropical region of Pacific South America. Albatrosses are all identifiable by their long wingspans, long sharp bills made up of horny claves ending with a large hook, strong webbed feet, and the elongated nostrils that gave the order its name, allowing them to measure the exact airspeed in flight to enable dynamic soaring. rising into the wind and descending downwind to gain energy from the vertical wind gradients, only rarely flapping their wings, usually to take flight, though they typically need to face into the wind while running to take off or by jumping off from a cliff. They all exhibit some variation of white or black or brown coloration, most being predominantly white, which has led to the common confusion with the unrelated seagulls. Albatrosses depend mainly on their sense of smell for hunting as well as eyesight, their diet consisting mostly of squid, fish and crustaceans, either sitting on the surface of the water to snap up passing prey as they've been forced up by the currents, or occasionally by plunge diving from the air. They maintain a largely solitary lifestyle, foraging alone across huge distances between breeding seasons, with no migratory season or fixed ranges and no territories to speak of, many species circling the globe repeatedly through their lives. As such, communication between albatrosses is limited, with most albatrosses remaining silent while out at sea, only occurring during occasional accidental interactions, as when food is abundant, drawing several albatrosses to a single location, or during mating season, occurring once a year, usually in the early spring. The variety of vocalizations employed being for display purposes, whining, squeaking up, longing calls, only occasionally braying and snapping the bills to show aggression. Like other seabirds, albatrosses are colonial, though unlike most, they gather on isolated islands and exposed headlands, usually returning to the same nesting grounds year after year, the same one they were born in, generally in the Antarctic tundra or the subantarctic islands. Northern Pacific species breeding along the northern coasts of Asia and North America. Remotely located and often free from terrestrial land predators, the colonies may vary from dense groupings of hundreds, as with the mollinettes, to looser groups and widely spaced individual nests, as with great and sooty albatrosses. Albatrosses are widely known for their elaborate and highly specific courtship rituals, including synchronized performances of various actions such as preening, calling, summiting, bill clacking, staring, and dancing, often involving sky calling, where the male puts on a display by vocalizing upwards, spreading out its wings. First-timers dancing with many partners for several consecutive seasons until it finds its final mate, after which they continue to perfect their ritual until it has become entirely unique to that pair, and they mate, establishing a pair bond that will last for a lifetime, meeting only every 2 or 3 years at the same spot to mate again. The female lays a single large egg in a large nest of grass, shrubs and soil, either set on flat land, at the base of a tree, or on a cliffside. Only the waved albatross lacking nests altogether, instead of moving the egg continuously around, after which the parents alternate in incubating the egg for the next 70 to 80 days, the longest incubation period for any bird. Each of the parents incubating the egg for up to 3 weeks at a time, alternating foraging trips. Once it's ready, the chick emerges from the egg covered in a light juvenile plumage, either grey or brown, after which it remains guarded and brooded for 3 weeks, cared for by both parents alternating bringing hot food at a regular interval, feeding it a mixture of squid and fish as well as stomach oil, a highly nutritious fluid generated inside the stomach of an adult albatross from previously digested food, slowly gaining weight over several months until the chick becomes heavier than its parents in preparation for fledging, when the chick develops its new plumage with the feathers strong enough to support flight, taking on average 5 to 6 months for most albatrosses, with the greater albatrosses taking as long as 10 months. The chick taking flight and not returning until it's ready to mate, leaving its parents behind to disperse on their own. The juvenile albatross reaches maturity at only 5 years of age, but even then they will not attempt to breed for another few years, instead visiting colonies during mating season to practice the elaborate breeding rituals and dances. The mortality rate for albatrosses is high, particularly with the smaller species, targeted by aquatic predators when swimming, and feral cats and rats are on land, tiger sharks particularly targeting young chicks as they attempt to fly for the first time, often found waiting near breeding sites every year. As the albatross gets older, however, their mortality rate gradually drops, as it learns to hunt more effectively and spend less time on the water surface and on the land. Albatrosses also have a far greater lifespan than most other birds in existence, up to 60 years of age in the wild, still actively nesting. Among the most iconic birds today are the eagles, a loosely held together group of large birds of prey. They are closely related to hawks, kites, and harriers. 60 species in all, known for being among the largest raptors in the world, aside from vultures. Active hunters and apex predators, they are known to hunt snakes and lizards, small or medium-sized mammals, or even other birds. The largest eagles even known to attack deer, wolves, and foxes. With most eagles having no natural predators and residing firmly on the top of the food chain. Eagles are widely known for their distinctive iconic appearance, with unusually large hooked beaks, large heavy heads, robust bills, strong muscular legs, and large powerful talons used to grab hold of and tear flesh from their prey, as well as their keen eyesight, which can be over 3 times the acuity of human eyes, with the additional ability to see well beyond the normal color spectrum, to enable the eagle, often soaring high above the fields and forests, to spot smaller prey down below, prey which may often be camouflaged or concealed, some able to spot a rabbit partially hidden up to 2 miles away. Though they are all frequently highly opportunistic, occasionally taking carrion, they can be found on every continent except Antarctica, most being concentrated in Africa and Eurasia, with the habitats of many eagles overlapping, though they have each developed specializations of both prey and environment, so as not to directly be in competition with each other. Typically divided into 4 groups: fish eagles, snake eagles, harpy eagles, and booted or true eagles. Eagles are typically highly solitary, often seen alone or in pairs in desolate or distant areas far from human settlements, and rarely coming together in smaller groups for seasonal migration. Though many species are primarily sedentary, some eagles in temperate or subpolar climates employ highly complex migratory patterns, though even then they commonly only gather as juveniles, with adults remaining either solitary or in pairs. As such, eagles generally have 1 or 2 primary foraging ranges, which can be as large as 100 square miles, only a few species being nomadic. Eagles have also been known to be highly territorial, utilizing aerial displays, aggressive direct flapping flight, and even dogfights to push other individuals out. Dogfights which can occasionally be fatal given the size and the strength of the eagle. Communication between eagles is frequently limited to a few distinctive calls and whistles, though they may be of great complexity and vary depending on location, forming dialects within a single species. They can vary between almost entirely silent until threatened to a highly vocal with great variations in song between species, divided between simpler threat calls, high-pitched cries or honking used when threatened, and more complex display calls, with repeated phrases used to attract mates, often used by the female to signal her readiness, as well as the single-note cheeping call of their young, which develops as the chick grows older into full adult calls, though the calls are often extremely high-pitched and can carry for miles due to the often vast distances between individuals. Mating season occurs every 1 to 2 years, lasts 2 to 3 months, the time of which may vary greatly depending on the climate and the species. First-time males actively seeking out females from nearby territories, forming a joint territory from then on, with nearly all species of eagle known to form monogamous pairs after the first mating season, staying together until one of the party dies, though a replacement may be found soon thereafter. Their calls are instantly recognizable to their mate, who immediately moves to seek out the source, no matter how far. The male then engages in a variety of display flight, alternating soaring and complex maneuvers, diving, gliding, and chasing each other by calling loudly in courtship, even using stones and sticks as part of the display, dropping and catching it to impress their mate, the typically much larger female. Before they settle down and prepare a nest site or eyrie together, gathering sticks and leaves to build a large bowl-shaped or flat nest between 30 to 100 inches wide. Set on high cliffs and mountainsides or high up in treetops, larger eagles often using the same location every year, leading to some nest sites gradually increasing in size as they are rebuilt every mating season, while many smaller eagles reappropriate the nests of other birds, including crows and seabirds. Mating is typically brief and repeated over several weeks to ensure conception. About 6 weeks later, the female lays 2 to 4 eggs, which are then cared for by both parents, typically alternating incubation of the eggs for 1 to 2 months. The chicks hatch, small and defenseless, covered in a light brown, white, or gray down, with the male bringing food initially, while the female watches over the chicks. Though they soon begin to alternate as the chicks grow stronger and more independent, the parent hunting for both their mate and the young, regurgitating food into their mouths. With some species, such as the bald eagle, the larger chick additionally frequently kills the younger one once it's hatched to eliminate competition for food, and sometimes to partake in cannibalism, while the parents observe without intervening. The eagle chicks first attempts to fly within 2 to 3 months, depending on their parents for food, up to 6 months after hatching. The chicks soon thereafter leaving the nest permanently, coinciding with the following mating season, with larger harpy eagles taking significantly longer, up to 11 months. Immature eagles are typically dispersive, moving tens, if not hundreds of miles away from their birthplace and retaining no connection to their parents, only reaching maturity and establishing a fixed territory at 2 to 5 years of age, at which point they also attain their final plumage, though many young eagles fail to find a mate for the first 1 to 2 years after maturation. Most eagles have relatively long lifespans, some believed to last well past 30 years in the wild. Just as with the penguins and the albatrosses, the eagles form an integral part of their surrounding ecosystem, with all forms of social configurations, from massive rookeries to medium-sized colonies to loners and pairs. They can exhibit both complex calls and dances, intricate flights and silent understandings. They are no less interesting either as groups or individuals, all part of the animal society.